Hi, welcome back to the Sing Confidently, Live Creatively podcast. Estelle here. I'm a singer, actor, and vocal coach, and the host of this podcast. And show is all about helping you build confidence as a singer, as well as a creative and performing artist in general, and how to live that creative life that I know that you're desiring and longing to live, and you're working towards, just like I am. And so, if that is you, hi, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for being here. Thank you for, being part of this community. And I really, really want it to feel like a community. So if you haven't reached out to me or connected with me via Instagram or email, please go ahead and do that. I would love to say hi to you and hear what you're loving about the show. If you have any questions about upcoming interviews, or if you have anyone that you would love to hear on the show as well that you could recommend, like I would love to hear from you. And you can also join our community group on Facebook at creativelybyestelle.com/community, and you can join there for free. And we can chat over there. But I really want this year for us to be able to connect more than ever before. And so I'm really excited for some upcoming things that are going to hopefully help us connect even more virtually and maybe even in person at some point this year. But I'm really excited for you to be in this community and to know that you're not alone as an artist, as a creative, as a singer. I'm right here cheering you on, and we can be in this together. And so make sure that you have reached out to me if you haven't already. Literally just DM me or email me. Like, I'm here to talk to you guys. I want to talk to you guys. But you can also just like comment on YouTube or Spotify, or you can join our community group. So there's so many ways for you to connect, but please, please, please take that step today to connect in some way to me and to this show a little bit more. Okay. So I'm excited for you to hear our interviewee today. I was trying to think of the right word. Our interviewee today, Kendra Erika. She is going to tell you all about her journey as a singer and a performing artist and recording artist. And I just know it's going to inspire you. So get ready to be inspired. Kendra Erika is an acclaimed singer, songwriter, and actress whose unmistakable voice, cinematic flair, and fearless creativity have made her one of today's most compelling emerging artists, with 5 Billboard top 10 dance hits, including her #1 reimagining of Laura Branigan's Self-Control. Kendra has carved a signature lane in pop, jazz, fusion, dance, and sophisticated theatrical storytelling, which you guys know I love as a theater girly. Yeah, so she has a single called GoldenEye that was released in 2025, and she has an upcoming full-length album, Licensed to Thrill, coming out February 13th. So definitely go and support her. She's going to talk about that album and like where you can support her over there as well. But she also went from being tone deaf to now being again like a singer who has topped the Billboard charts, like, which is incredible. And so I just know that this is going to inspire you. So without further ado, I'm so excited to introduce you guys to a singer of a Billboard charting. You've topped the Billboard
Yes.
chart, right?
Yes.
Music pop star. I really enjoyed listening to your song. I can't wait for us to get into the music that you've created, Kendra. But before we get into that, I want you to really introduce yourself to everyone who's listening. These are people who are singers, aspiring singers, performers. They
Right.
want to be creative, literally just like you're doing. What you're doing is like exactly what the show is for, helping people build that confidence to put themselves out there in the way that you have. And so, and
Right.
you went from being tone deaf to now charting Billboard, so topping Billboard charts. So, can you share with everyone a little bit of your story and how you got to be where you are today as a musician, a singer, and a recording artist?
Well, I started when I was very young. I always knew I wanted to do this, and I'm like the 1% of people that knew what they wanted to do when they were very young. So, being that I was so little, I watched all the Disney princess movies and I said, I want to do that.
Yeah.
Like, I want to create a world for myself and I want to sing and dance and perform. And I had one little setback, and that was that I was tone deaf. And as much as I wanted to do this, as much as I had the confidence and the fervor to do it, I didn't have the skill set to do it.
Mm.
So thankfully, because I wanted to get more involved in community theater and just performing in general, my parents signed me up for private vocal lessons with a professional German opera singer. And if anybody knows anything about vocals and vocal training, uh, classical and operatic is the foundation for everything. So, and being that I was so young, I was so malleable to the training. Like they say, it's better to learn a language when you're little than it is later on in life. And thank God I soaked up all of that training, and now it has become a part of me and a part of my growth and a part of my the evolution of who I am. And from there, I entered into local talent competitions. I continued to get more involved in community theater, in school productions, and just started to fulfill those avenues as much as possible. And when I was 13, I won my first talent competition performing Andrea Bocelli's Time to Say Goodbye. Now, if anybody knows that
Oh,
song, that's a very challenging
yeah.
song, especially for somebody who came from where she came from. And I won that talent competition, and that signified that I'm on the right path, and this can be this can be achieved and this can be seized. And then I went on to perform in different talent competitions and wine and food festivals. And also when I was 15, I earned my first job, my first gig singing at a restaurant every Sunday evening. It was an Italian restaurant called Renzo's. I went there with my family for karaoke one night. I got up and I sang the exact same song, Time to Say Goodbye. He comes over with two glasses of wine, like very like Coppola style, and said, "I have a proposition." And sets the wine glasses down on the table and said, I just lost my Sunday singer. And his I remember what he said. He said, "I lost my Sunday singer because she got knocked up, you
Oh.
know." So, and he said, would you like to come in and take her position?" And instantly I was like, "Yep, would love to." And that excitement was just, that excitement was just super present. And then when I went home, all of the reality starts to hit. And then I'm like, I can't just sing like the 3 to 5 songs that I know on loop. I'm gonna have to build a repertoire
Hmm.
for this opportunity. So then I went home and I learned a lot of the American Songbook, a lot of the jazz standards, because this was in Boca Raton, Florida. And if anybody knows anything about Boca Raton, Florida, it's the eighth borough of New York. You have all those retirees that, saw Frank Sinatra in person, who saw Dee Martin, who saw Sammy Davis Jr., who saw like Ella Fitzgerald, who saw all these people live in action. So they're gonna want some sort of like time sake, and some like keepsake and some memory of that. So I went home and I learned a bunch of those songs, and I sang at that restaurant from like age 15 till my early 20s. And but while I was doing that, I was also working on my songwriting abilities and avenues as well. I was working with some producers in Miami, which then led to producers in Palm Beach, and then ultimately to an artist development firm and producers in New York. And all the while I was doing that, I was performing locally. Like I got more restaurant jobs because it just became by word of mouth,
Right.
and I started building my name in the Boca Raton community. And when I was working with this artist development firm in New York, they were actually, funny enough, they were, developing me to be like this Bond girl image. And I
Okay.
and with like this like Lana Del Rey kind of a sound.
Mhm.
And but when I wasn't when I kind of hit like a cul-de-sac or a kind of a dead end with them, then this guy, Jason Dowman, who was introduced to me by these artist developers, he said, "Why don't you just come out to Los Angeles and start working with my team?" And his team was the Billboard dance crew. Like a lot of these producers were in the dance and pop genre.
Okay.
And so that's what got me into dance music. And he had mentioned to me, he said, your voice, your tone fits very well with that like house, electronic dance,
Mm-hmm.
uh, uh, what's the word? Like thread or, you know,
Subgenre.
genre. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. So wait, so by the time you had transitioned to like doing more EDM pop stuff, how old were you
Yes.
then?
I was, I was in my early 20s, like
Hmm.
22.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want people to hear like even though you started really young, right?
Hmm.
Regardless of what age you are when you're listening to this, like you can hear how it's a journey. Like even if you start young, you're not going to end up in
Yeah.
the same place that you started, right? You started out
Yeah.
young and then you were like in your teens singing like jazz standards and American songbook,
Hmm.
and then you ended up in EDM, right? So even if you're starting in your 20s or your 30s wanting to get back into singing, like it's not like you have to know exactly what you're going to do per se, but what you did is what I want to point out and what we're going to get into is that you were willing to start and start small. You started by asking for help, seeking training, technical training, which is great because you did like classical training that really helps with coordinating the voice, especially when you're
Hmm.
young, helping your muscles to be able to, blend registers and all of that. So
Yes.
you're really able to get some technique in when you're young. And but I want people to hear that even if you're older and you're starting to sing again or you're wanting to sing and you also are tone deaf or maybe you think that you're tone deaf, although only a small percentage of people are actually truly tone deaf, but even if
Yeah.
you are genuinely tone deaf, like look at Kendra as an example of like, but there is a way, right? When you are able to ask for help, when you're able to seek support and get that technical training, and then from there, you started putting yourself out there, right? You
Yes.
started sharing your voice and your sound in public, even if if it was just once every week, right? And then from
Yes.
there, word of mouth spread, and you got more gigs, and all of these other things
Hmm.
came out. But I just want people to hear like it starts with one small step, and usually
Yeah.
it looks like asking for support, asking for help, and then putting yourself out there. And so I think that's like the way that you tell your story. There's just such a thread of like one thing after the other, and there's transformation in the midst of that journey, and it's okay. Like you were open to it, which I think shows a lot about your character. Like you're open to things changing. And so
Yeah.
for you, when you think about, because I think about people listening who are like, okay, I want to start singing again, or I really want to get into singing. Kendra was tone deaf and then she was able to get training and then she was able to put herself out there and like look at her now, like this is incredible. Like, but where do I start? Like, how do I start when I don't feel super confident or I feel like I'm
Hmm.
going to get rejection or I'm going to face rejection? So I want to ask you,
Yeah.
Kendra, have you had moments where you didn't feel super confident in your voice itself? And
Hmm.
what helped you move past that lack of confidence to then still continue to take action?
Well, it's just like what you said, it's taking action and
Mm.
having, you know, the saying goes, this industry is not for the faint of heart. And you have to have like a really strong heart and desire to do this. So no matter what I was faced with, um, and by all means, not that I was faced with like super duper like let's just say like Marvel Transformers, the sky is falling obstacles, you know what I
Right,
mean?
right.
But just um but whatever I was faced with, I had this like spirit and this heart just to keep forward, just keep moving forward.
Mhm.
And I mean as if biblically speaking, if you look back, you get turned into a pillar of salt.
Right?
So
All there.
if
Mhm.
you just keep on pushing forward, but also, and then as far as the rejection aspect goes, that's why a lot of people kind of are stagnant in what they do is because they're fearing that rejection.
Mm.
Um, and and I mean, just for me, the rejection was kind of unspoken for me, but I also think it's because, like you said, I started small and then I built my way up. So it was like a steady thing. It wasn't just like,
Mm.
I feel like I'm talented. I'm gonna grab my tap shoes, ballet shoes,
Mhm.
my
Yeah.
guitar, all of that, get on a Greyhound bus, go here, and then audition, and then you get rejected. You get that rejection because you're jumping the gun.
Right.
But you have to start small and build and be more steady with it so that you don't it's easier for you to keep plugging along.
Yeah.
Um, but I think, and then also not being afraid to put yourself out there,
Yeah.
because that's why. And especially when it comes to like do it yourself marketing, like social media and all that, like that's very critical and that's very important in today's world. Because it's not like the 90s where it was like, oh, she's talented, let's develop her. And then she becomes, Britney Spears, you know?
Yeah.
So it's not like that anymore. And not being afraid to put yourself out there. And I will say throughout my journey, I've battled with myself and I battled with teams and I battled with my mom on social media because it's finding where it's like Tetris. It's finding where it belongs in your craft and in your space, and how you can utilize it. Because sometimes I would feel like I was being inauthentic, but then my mom and my team would be like, no, just post that. But I'm like, I don't feel like it's authentic. So I would battle with myself.
Yeah.
But the thing is that once you find that lane, which is the lane that I'm in right now, and that's the project that I'm promoting right now, I find it so much easier to want to use it because you're speaking from your core, you're speaking from like true interests.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. I want to actually connect what you said just now about
Mhm.
sharing on social media to what you said earlier about like why you kept going even if you like lacked confidence or anything like that, like what helped you to keep taking steps of action. And it's like the same. I call it like your why, reconnecting to your why. I talk about this a lot in the podcast. So anyone listening, you've heard me talk about this. You have to know your why. Like why do you want to do the thing you want to do? For you, Kendra, you said that you like started young. You already knew kind of like that you wanted to be
Hmm.
a performer, right? You knew that you wanted to be
Right.
performing. So that was kind of like a really core why for you. You already have that in your heart when you were younger. And then like even now when you're like talking about sharing on social media, right? And putting yourself out there, promoting yourself, building a community, um, uh, people who want to support you, like now it feels easier for you because you know why you're doing it, right? You have something that you believe in. Does that make sense? Like, do you see that
Yeah.
connection? I feel like you have that like that inner drive versus like
Hmm.
if it's external, like, oh, this I have to post because that's what people are telling me to do. No, no, no. Like I want to share this because I'm passionate about this project. I need people to know about this. Does that make
Hmm.
sense? It's like an internal validation.
It has to come from internal instead of external. Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. And that's why I've also learned something very important for, your listeners to hear is that you want to keep your team small.
Mm.
You need to keep your team small because I would work with large teams. Like I had three managers at one time. I had a whole social media team at one time. I had this person and that person, and there are too many cooks in the kitchen. And so therefore when your team is that big, you can't hear what you want to do.
Mm.
You can't listen to yourself, because they're telling you, oh, do this and do that and do this and do that. And what's funny, and I'll share a short story, is one of them they were trying to take me out of the dance zone and
Wow.
make me commercial, you
Okay.
know. And I was like, oh, you want to turn me into a sip of water? Yeah, good luck. So um I was then brought into a meeting with Rick Knowles because one of the guys knew Rick Knowles, and during the meeting, the consulting guy that I was working with was telling Rick Knowles, he said, yeah, we want to, transition her into more of this like commercial pop kind of sound. And so he was like, hold on, let me listen to your stuff. So he brought up my stuff on his big control center. I was watching the videos, listening to the music. And then he paused and he said, stay in your lane. He said, be that dance queen, be
Yeah.
that dance girl. He said, I don't see anything broke or wrong with this system. So he said, just keep on doing what you're doing. And the consultant, I looked over at him and he was like kind of like fidgeting and like uncomfortable. He was like, "Ooh," like his plan wasn't working.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but that and being that it's Rick Knowles, I mean, hello, it's like a one of the biggest wigs telling
Mhm.
me stay the course and what you're doing is correct.
Mm.
So, like I said, when you have too many cooks in the kitchen, you start to not hear yourself. And so therefore it does become external and not internal.
Yeah. That's a really good story. And speaking about like your music and sharing your music, and now you're staying in your lane and you're putting out more music. Can you tell us about this? You're doing this is your debut EP, right? Because you have GoldenEye already out.
Yes,
Yeah.
GoldenEye is the lead single
Mhm.
to the album, which is
The
coming
album.
out.
The album.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So can you tell us more about the album? It's out on February 13th, right?
February 13th. It's called License to Thrill. And as you can already tell, it's a James Bond
Yes.
007 tribute album. And it's a journey of all my favorite Bond songs throughout the decades. So I cover like the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and today. So all the super famous Bonds, like I cover the Sean era, the Roger era, the Pierce Brosnan era, and then the Daniel Craig era.
Wow.
So
I didn't realize that you were doing I knew that it was James Bond inspired. I didn't know it was a tribute to each era like that. That's so cool.
yeah,
Wow. What
yeah,
gave you
it's
that
a
idea or like made you like attracted to that concept as an artist?
well, I had always wanted, well, first of all, I've always been, captivated by James Bond as it is. My dad showed me my first movie when I was 7 years old, and I was just like, that is so cool. These movies are just so like exciting and thrilling. And even at that age, I was like, oh, Sean is handsome. So I always wanted to do something throughout my journey. And even when I was working with that artist development firm in New York, they were creating me as this like Bond girl image
Yeah.
because they saw that within me. And being that the firm that I was working with, they're all well, most of them were European, so they really had that like that quality and that taste, and they could tell because
Mhm.
Europeans know how to create quality products.
Yeah.
So they saw that within me. And then when I was doing the dance stuff, I kind of put that on hold. But then as I think it was like a few years ago, the idea then popped back into my head and I was always thinking like I want to do something Bond related. I want to do something Bond. And like the idea just kept on growing louder and louder and louder in my head. And then just like a couple of years ago, I just blurted it out to my mom, my team. I said, I want to do James Bond album. I was just like, but no, like I want to do this. So then I got into the studio with Myron McKinley, and I've worked with him before. He did my cover of Witchcraft by Frank Sinatra, and which won the Hollywood Independent Music Award. And he and Ralph Johnson from Earth, Wind and Fire, they co-produced it. But
Wow.
I knew because Myron has um such an indelible uh uh uh, uh ability to strip down songs and restylize them in such a unique way, I knew that he was going to be the guy for this project.
Yeah.
So, and I recorded the vocals. I think it was about like two Christmases ago, and
Wow.
now we're releasing it. But it's yeah, it's been a process with that because just like I said, it's a DIY world, and you have to create all the visuals and the marketing material. So, but it's been such like this is I would say this is like the most serious about a project I've ever been.
Wow. But it shows your artistry, like your hands are all into, like you're the one who's really crafting this. You had the idea and you're
Mhm.
creating this album and
Yeah.
you're collaborating with people, but then also you can see like how people from your past and ideas from your past have come back into play. So every part of your journey, I just want people to hear like every part of your creative journey, it's gonna be important. It's gonna be relevant. You don't know when it's gonna come back, and like you're just such an inspiration, Kendra, to be like, oh, like I could start now, and like who knows where I could be,
Mhm.
in a decade, and who knows like how what I'm doing now is actually going to come back into play later, right? What I'm
Mhm.
inspired by now could come back into play later, and like I just think you're a great example of
Thank you.
that, as well as like just like overcoming all the odds to pursue what you love to do and like what you're passionate about, and now you're getting to share your music, which is just so cool. Like that's the dream. That's a dream, Kendra. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
We're gonna wrap up with my final question that I ask every single person, and it's like the most important question because it's so important that we hear this. And this question is like, if you were to say one more like word of advice to the person who's listening, who's like an aspiring singer, performer, actor, dancer, creative. This person just wants to share their art. They want to be singing like you. They want to create their own album
Mhm.
one day, but they're struggling with self-doubt. They're struggling. They don't feel confident. They don't feel like they could put themselves out there in the way that you have. They're like, "Oh, Kendra's just like a unicorn. Like, I don't know. I can never be like her." If you could say one piece of advice to that person, what would you say to them?
Um, it's it's a quote that my dad instilled in me, and that is hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
Hmm. Say more. I love that.
Uh, there's and I think I really do think that it comes from that sense of like athleticism.
Mm,
Um, because what separates great and iconic artists from just like artists
mm,
is they have that sense of athleticism. They treat their craft and music like it's a sport. Um, and my dad is an athlete himself. My grandmother was a professional golfer. I
wow.
golf too. So, but my dad's side of the family were very athletic, and when you treat music like it's a sport, you're always trying to be MVP. You're always
Right.
trying to work towards something. And I think athletes are on a different level when it comes to that like sense of tenacity and perseverance and overcoming things. And it's because they have to do something, they have to work towards the team and doing things for the team. When it comes to artists, sometimes what they can do is they can internalize way too much,
Mm,
and so they cave into themselves. Um, Whereas if you treat your craft and your music like it's a sport, you're like Nike, just do
yeah.
it.
Just keep going. Yeah.
Just keep going.
That's a
So,
great,
and
great
I've
point.
noticed that with especially with artists like Eminem, like he's God, like he strategizes so well.
Mm,
Like, and he like looks at it he looks at it like he's looking at like John Madden looks at it like a football field. He's like, okay, I'm gonna go here, here. Like he strategizes his
mm,
play, and that's essentially what you have to do. And I think that's what will really lead you to the touchdown.
That's amazing. I have not had anyone say anything like that about like having that strategic mindset and like
Mhm.
using the metaphor of like comparing to an athlete. That's really, really cool. I love that. And hard work beats talent, right? When talent just
Doesn't work
doesn't
hard.
work hard. That's the
Yeah.
quote. That's it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I think that's where we need to leave people with, to sit on that and to think about how they want to strategize and really commit to keep going in this craft that they're pursuing, just like you have. And I think that they can continue to follow your example. And I want everyone to know how to connect with you, listen to your music, and
Yes.
find out about how they can listen to your upcoming album as well. Can you share that with everyone?
Yes. Well, you can find me at my website at kendraerika.com, on Instagram at Kendra Erika, Facebook at Kendra Erika Music. You can also find me on TikTok, on YouTube. When License to Thrill comes out February 13th, you can find that on Spotify, Apple Music, SoundCloud, all the music platforms. And also, February 15th, I have a debut show for License to Thrill in Las Vegas. So, and tickets are available at kendraerika.com or thespacelv.com. And it's going to be shaken, not stirred, and it's going to be a thrill to get a license for.
Yeah. I'll put all of that in the show notes and I'll try to, I should be able to release this before that date so that people can make time to explore the album and all the things. So
Yes.
thank you so much for sharing with us today, Kendra, and for being on the show and reaching out to be on the show. I really just appreciate you for taking the time, and it's been lovely chatting with you.
So nice chatting with you. You're a great gal.
Thank you so much. All right, I'll see you. Thank you so, so much for listening to today's episode and to this show. I'm so in awe of you for being here and showing up for your creative gifts. That takes courage. Don't forget to join the performing arts community on Facebook for support and inspiration as you continue on your journey. If this episode helped or inspired you in any way, please leave a review on Apple Podcasts and share it with someone. It means so, so much. Thank you again, and don't forget to keep singing, acting, dancing, performing, and living creatively. Talk to you next time.